In 1995, a game came out for the 3DO that became a cult classic over time. That game was D, and it was developed by a company called Warp. Warp had an interesting small team that included, among other people, Kenji Eno, the founder and director, and Fumito Ueda, who by now you should know as the creator of Shadow of the Colossus and The Last Guardian. Eno is always described as a maverick game designer in online articles. Really? Maverick? Did any of those article writers even play Mega Man X? Eno looks nothing like a maverick. Stupid game journalism. What role would the play in D? Animation. Which is an important role considering D is essentially an interactive movie made entirely of 3D models. But don't get too excited, it's all pre-rendered. So if you started gaming after the late 90s, it can be difficult to get over the presentation. Or can it? D is a horror game and it takes place in an alternate reality shaped like a medieval castle inside the hospital where the protagonist's dad is supposed to be. He's a good doctor, but for some mysterious reason he started murdering people. As his concerned daughter, Laura rushes to the crime scene where she's suddenly taken to this alternate dimension. If you play the other Warp games, you might recognize Laura. From what I know, she was like a digital actress and was reutilized in other games, but those games were not sharing a universe or continuity or anything like that. There is an explanation for what this cast represents, but since it's one of the last revelations, I'll keep my mouth shut about it. Besides the intro and the credits, there is no floating text or writing in the interface anywhere in the game. The only letters you find are part of something in the environment, and even those are few and far between. The only lines of dialogue come from Laura's dad to warn you about what might happen if you don't turn back and leave. Whatever is happening to her father will be completed after 2 hours. That's 2 real hours, and if you fail to reach the end within that time, it's game over. The time limit is the only pressure you have since you can't get injured or killed by anything. If you disregard the narrative context, it's basically a race against time where you're trying to find items that can help you solve puzzles in the environment and go deeper inside the castle. I didn't play the 3DO version, but the very grainy, hard to look at footage you see here is from the Sega Saturn. However, there was also a version for the Sony PlayStation and an MS-DOS port for the PC. In 2016, Nightdive Studios made that PC version playable through Steam and Good Old Games. That version had a sharper image quality, but I have no footage of it. I just need an excuse to play Sega Saturn. CG and 3D models or animation in general tends to age very fast, especially if it's from the 90s or early 2000s. But as I said in my Silent Hill review from last year, sometimes the dated 3D can be turned into a happy accident. Because the little things meant to be represented look so off from the real thing due to limited technology, this creates a high level of abstraction that can benefit the intended eeriness of the atmosphere in the game. And because indeed you're supposed to be in an alternate reality, where you could approach a mirror and a hand might try to pull you closer, or a bowl of water might turn into blood, the abstraction of the ancient 3D visuals end up being appropriately alien. You might not be feeling uncomfortable or scared for the reasons the designers wanted, but just the fact things can still look unsettling does help maintaining the horror mood in old games like this one, and personally I find that really interesting. Unfortunately, D doesn't benefit as much as Silent Hill from this, because the lack of real danger is something you notice very early and there is no player expression to allow you to take risks to increase or decrease that danger. Unless you count spending a few extra minutes trying to find these bugs that trigger flashbacks a risk. The term interactive movie to describe the game is not just a negative hyperbole, it really does fit the kind of experience this is. Your movement is always very limited to a few directions, which Laura picks and walks in a very narrow scripted fashion, and each room only has so many camera shots. The gameplay loop is also not particularly deep. You're supposed to find what you can interact with, then select an item to use if necessary based on Laura's reaction, If somehow you get lost, you can use a pocket mirror Laura carries in her small inventory. The mirror will give a glimpse of a scene you're supposed to find, which is completely useless since it doesn't help narrow down where to go to get there at all. And if you use the mirror 3 times, it breaks. Honestly, good riddance. The most exciting thing that can happen outside of finding puzzle solutions is that a few spots exist only to trigger optional scenes. And there is one lone instance of quick time event fight you have to complete, and it's not even the final challenge. The exploration aspect does remind me a little bit of Myst, but extremely toned down in complexity. Hate to be a downer on this classic, but the gameplay aged worse than the presentation. This is a very passive experience all in all, which is something I absolutely despise in any video game, old or new. You need a very engaging story to make up for it. It does feature more than one ending though, which wasn't common back then and is still pretty neat. The puzzles aren't super difficult, with a couple exceptions like one of the last puzzles which has a solution that seems to come out of nowhere. You're probably going to use a guide sooner or later, though be warned, if you check the guide for every little thing, the game will be done with very quickly. There is one puzzle in the game that will give you a hard time even if you follow a guide though. And this puzzle might make you want to quit playing. It sure as hell almost made me want to stop. Anyone who beat D before knows what I'm talking about. The rotating room. The rotating room sucks. It sucks really, really bad. God, does it suck. As you can probably guess, it's called the rotating room because you use the wheel at the center to cause it to rotate. The entrance you came from then gets connected to a different room. Or does it? With every spin, there is a chance you slowly turn around to see an impassable wall, then slowly turn back to the wheel, rotate it, wait, then repeat the slow process again to see another freaking brick wall. Or maybe you're lucky and it's a door, so you approach it, get deep inside the room, find out that you can't do anything in it, then go back to the rotating room, approach the wheel, spin it, wait, turn around, another brick wall, and another one. Or it might be a door, but who knows if it's the room you need. It's random, but the order you're supposed to solve the puzzle sure as hell isn't. And as you can imagine, the more rooms you clear, the more useless wheel spins there will be since you're having to narrow down your lucky chances. This room only exists to waste your time. It's a poor excuse of a time waster to try edging you closer to 5 PM so you get a game over. And if you feel lost about what room you have to check first and how each puzzle relates to another solution, you will definitely hit a game over here. Basically what I'm trying to say is that I can't think of a more exciting way to spend a Halloween evening than this. So why is this game a cult classic if it sounds so unfun? Well, if you put it in historical context, there wasn't anything like it back then. This is a horror game from before horror games were associated with survival gameplay, and a very graphical horror game for 1995 standards. During most of the game, the player is seeing everything from a very close and personal point of view, so seeing detailed corpses, acts of bloody murder and cannibalism on screen was a huge shock for a lot of people. This level of graphic violence handled in a serious tone, with full intent to look horrifying, wasn't something anyone would expect to find readily available at game stores. And the funny thing is, it might not have been that way if Kenji Eno himself hadn't switched the censored version he sent for publisher approval with the master uncensored version when taking the game to the manufacturer back then. That's an infamous story in some circles, and yes, it did happen. The publishers would probably have gotten very upset at Eno if the game hadn't been such a huge success in Japan. Is D worth playing today? As an art piece, absolutely. Kenji Eno's games seem to have a very unique style. Even if you don't agree with my take regarding horror ambience and old 3D models and animation, running a full playthrough of D is a real treat to say the least. Some of the imagery is so experimental it transcends age and simply becomes its own thing. Just be warned, the little voice acting there is really, really bad and not in a funny way.
Laura. Laura. This is your father. Laura, go back. You must not cross over to this side. This is another world born of my own mind.
The story isn't great either, but it's really only there as a vehicle for the shocking violent imagery to happen. And sometimes that's what the plot in any media is. It doesn't have to be the thing that makes or breaks the product. As a video game you want to play to challenge yourself or have fun with, no, I can't recommend D. If you're not looking at D through an artistic lens, you will be bored. Then very pissed you wasted 2 hours spinning your wheel in a crappy room. Let us know in the comments if you have any thoughts to share about D. And as always, thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.